Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss the new stories we share. Let's begin. The woman standing in my lobby had dirt on her knees and desperation in her eyes. She clutched a bundle against her chest, and it took me a moment to realize the bundle was moving, breathing, whimpering softly. A baby. She held a baby wrapped in a faded blue blanket that had seen better decades. I watched from the mezzanine, my coffee growing cold in my hand. "Please," she said to my security guard, Marcus, her voice cracking like thin ice. "I just need 1 hour of work, anything. I can clean, I can organize files. I'll scrub your floors with my bare hands if that's what it takes." Marcus, a man I'd known for 15 years, looked uncomfortable. He shifted his weight, glanced up toward where I stood in the shadows. He didn't see me. Nobody ever looks up. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but you can't just walk in here and—" "I haven't eaten in 3 days." Her words stopped everything. The lobby fell silent. My assistant, Claire, froze mid-step near the elevators. Even the gentle hum of the air conditioning seemed to pause. "My daughter is 4 months old. I'm losing my milk. Do you understand what that means? She's hungry. She's so hungry, and I have nothing left to give her." The baby began to cry then, a thin, reedy sound that cut through the polished marble and the chrome fixtures and the abstract art that cost more than most people's houses. I should have looked away. I should have retreated to my office, let Marcus handle it the way he always handled these situations. We lived in a city of 10 million people. Desperation walked through those doors every week wearing different faces, but something about her voice, something about the way she said nothing left to give. I knew that voice. Not hers specifically, but the tone, the texture of complete exhaustion mixed with fierce animal love. The sound of someone who had been running so long they'd forgotten what it felt like to stand still. My feet carried me down the curved staircase before I'd made any conscious decision. The click of my Italian leather shoes announced my approach. Marcus straightened. Claire's eyes went wide. The woman turned. She couldn't have been more than 25, but life had aged her. Dark circles carved half-moons beneath eyes that were too bright, too alert. She was thin in the wrong way, the kind of thin that spoke of missed meals and sleepless nights. Her clothes were clean but worn, patched in places with thread that didn't quite match. "What's your name?" I asked. She blinked, surprised perhaps that the CEO of Mitchell Industries would descend from his glass tower to speak to someone like her. "Elena," she said. "Elena Vasquez." The baby's cries had softened to hiccups. I could see a small face now, round cheeks that should have been rounder, eyes squeezed shut against the harsh lobby lighting. "And your daughter?" "Lily. Lily, such a fragile name for such a fragile thing." I looked at Marcus. "Clear my morning." His eyebrows rose. "Sir, you have the Henderson meeting at 10 and the quarterly. Clear it." The words came out harder than I intended. I turned back to Elena Vasquez, this stranger who had walked into my building carrying everything she had in her arms. "Come with me," I said. She hesitated. Of course she did. She'd learned not to trust, that much was obvious. The world had taught her that lesson well. But hunger speaks louder than fear. She followed. My office occupied the entire 37th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city skyline, the river glittering in the morning sun like scattered diamonds. Elena stood just inside the doorway, her worn sneakers sinking into carpet that cost more per square foot than most monthly rents. I watched her take it all in. The mahogany desk my grandfather had commissioned in 1962, the original Rothko hanging behind my chair, all deep reds and bleeding oranges, the crystal decanters lined up like soldiers on the sidebar. "Sit," I said, gesturing to the leather couch near the window. "Please." She lowered herself carefully, as if afraid the furniture might reject her. The baby had fallen asleep, small chest rising and falling with each breath. I picked up my phone and dialed the kitchen. "Send up breakfast, everything, eggs, toast, fruit, yogurt, whatever's hot, and formula. Do we have formula?" A pause. "Then send someone to get some, now." When I hung up, Elena was staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Why?" she asked. "Why what? Why are you doing this? You don't know me. I'm nobody." I walked to the window, looking out at the city I'd conquered. 30 years of 14-hour days, of strategic acquisitions and hostile takeovers and calculated risks that paid off. I'd built an empire from the ashes of my father's failures. I'd made the Mitchell name mean something again, and yet— "You're not nobody," I said quietly. "Nobody is nobody." She made a sound that might have been a laugh in another life. "That's a nice thing to say from up here. From down where I'm standing, some of us are very much nobody." There was no bitterness in her voice, which somehow made it worse. Just stating a fact. Water is wet, the sky is blue, some people don't matter. "How did you end up here, Elena?" She looked down at her sleeping daughter. "You want the long version or the short version? Whichever one is true." Something flickered in her eyes. "I was a nursing student, 6 months from my degree. Then I got pregnant, and the father decided he wasn't ready to be a father, and my scholarship didn't cover maternity leave, and my mother died. and the medical bills ate everything, and then Lily came early and needed the NICU for 3 weeks. She paused. That's the short version. I thought about my own mother, the way she'd held on for years after the diagnosis, fighting with everything she had. The bills that nearly destroyed us before my first company went public. The guilt I still carried for being too busy building something to be there when she took her final breath. I'm sorry about your mother. Are you? The question caught me off guard. Yes. She studied me for a long moment. You mean it? That's strange. Most people just say the words. A knock at the door. The food arrived on silver trays, carried by 2 kitchen staff who tried not to stare at the disheveled woman on their CEO's couch. I dismissed them with a wave and pushed the cart toward Alina myself. Eat, I said, then we'll talk about work. She reached for a piece of toast, then stopped. I don't want charity. I asked for work 1 hour, that's all. And you'll get it, but you can't work if you're starving. The first bite broke something in her. I watched her fight against the tears, losing badly. She ate with the controlled desperation of someone who'd learned to pace herself to make every calorie count. Lily woke and fussed. Alina looked panicked. The formula, I said. It should be here any minute. And it was as if I'd summoned it by speaking. Alina's hands shook as she prepared the bottle. She fed her daughter there in my office, the morning light warming them both. I gave her privacy by retreating to my desk, pretending to review emails I didn't see. But I watched from the corner of my eye, the tenderness with which she cradled that small head. The soft sounds she made, gentle encouragements and whispered promises. My phone buzzed. Claire. Texting from outside. The Henderson group is getting impatient. Should I reschedule? Yes, I typed back. Clear the whole day. The whole day. David, what's going on? I'm not sure yet, and I wasn't. I hadn't been this unsure of anything in 20 years. Everything in my life was calculated, measured, controlled. I didn't make impulsive decisions. I didn't clear my schedule for strangers. But something about Alina Vasquez felt less like a stranger and more like a ghost. A ghost from a life I'd tried to forget. When Lily had finished her bottle, Alina looked up at me with clearer eyes. The food had helped. The rest would take longer. You mentioned work, she said. Right. I stood and walked to the window. What did you have in mind when you walked in here this morning? Honestly, I didn't have anything in mind. I just knew your company was the biggest one I could walk to from the shelter. I figured if anyone could spare 1 hour of work for a desperate woman, it would be a place with marble floors and security guards. The shelter, she was staying at the shelter, the one on Meridian Street probably, I donated to it. Written checks with lots of zeros and felt good about myself for all of 5 minutes. I'd never actually set foot inside. What kind of work can you do? I asked. Beyond nursing, I mean. I can type, I can file, I can answer phones. I cleaned houses through high school, so I'm good at that. She hesitated. I'm good with people, used to be anyway. Before all this, I could talk to anyone, make them feel comfortable. I turned to face her. Why did you become a nurse? The question surprised her. My grandmother was sick when I was 12. Huntington's disease, it's genetic, you know, could be waiting for me someday. She said it matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. The nurses who took care of her were the kindest people I'd ever met. They treated her like she mattered, made her last years feel like living, not just dying. She looked down at Lily. I wanted to be that for other people. And now I'm begging for work in lobbies. A sad smile. Life's funny that way. Life wasn't funny. Life was brutal and arbitrary and cruelly ironic. I'd learned that lesson before I was old enough to vote. Alina, I have a proposition for you. Her expression shuddered. She clutched Lily tighter. I don't do that. Whatever you're thinking, I don't. Nothing like that. I held up my hands. I'm offering you a job, a real one. Administrative assistant to the facilities manager. It's entry level, but it pays $45,000 a year with benefits. Medical, dental, the works. There's a daycare in the building, subsidized for employees. She stared at me like I'd started speaking a foreign language. You came here asking for 1 hour of work, I continued. I'm offering you 40 hours a week with a future. Why? The word was barely a whisper. I walked back to my desk and picked up a photograph. The frame was silver, tarnished at the edges. I'd kept it in the same spot for 23 years. I carried it over to Alina and placed it in her free hand. Because someone did this for me once, I said, when I was exactly where you are now. She looked at the photograph. A woman stood in front of a rundown apartment building holding a small boy's hand. The woman was thin, exhausted, fierce. The boy looked hungry and scared. That's my mother, I said. And that's me. I was 5 years old. The memory came back like it always did, in waves and fragments. The smell of mildew in the apartment where we'd lived after my father left. The sound of my mother crying at night when she thought I was asleep. The hollow feeling in my stomach that became so familiar I stopped recognizing it as hunger. We lived in one room, I told Alina, returning to the window. The city stretched out below, vast and indifferent. My mother worked 3 jobs just to keep us from being evicted. Cleaning offices at night, waitressing during the day, and on weekends, she'd stand outside churches and ask for odd jobs, anything, everything. Elena was quiet. Lily had fallen asleep again, her small fist curled around her mother's finger. One Sunday, she approached a man coming out of St. Margaret's Cathedral. He was wearing a suit that probably cost more than our monthly rent. She asked him if he had any work at all. She'd wash his car, organize his garage, clean his gutters. I paused, the old hurt rising in my throat. He could have said no, most people did, but instead he did something I'll never forget. What? He took her to breakfast, brought me along too, let me order anything I wanted from the menu. I got pancakes with strawberries and whipped cream. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. The memory made my eyes sting. After breakfast, he offered her a job at his company, secretary to the head of shipping. It wasn't much, but it was steady. Benefits, a future. What happened to her? She worked for that company for 20 years, moved up through the ranks, eventually became operations manager for the entire East Coast division. I turned to face Elena. She put me through college. She was there when I got my MBA. She saw me start my first company. My voice caught. She died 6 years ago, heart attack. She was sitting at her desk, doing what she loved. Elena wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. And the man from the church? His name was Robert Henderson. Henderson, like the meeting you canceled this morning. His son runs the company now. We're in the middle of a merger negotiation worth $3 billion. I smiled. Robert died 12 years ago, but before he did, I made sure to tell him what he'd done for my family, what he'd made possible. He didn't even remember that morning at the church. It was just a breakfast to him, a job offer that took 30 seconds to make. But it changed everything for us. I sat down across from Elena, close enough to see the tears tracking down her cheeks. I've spent my whole career trying to be the man Robert Henderson was in that moment, I said. But I got lost along the way. Too many meetings, too many deals, too many zeros on too many checks to organizations that exist in spreadsheets, not in real people's lives. I looked at Lily sleeping peacefully. You walked in here this morning, and you reminded me of something I'd forgotten. What's that? That the only power worth having is the power to help. Elena shook her head slowly. I don't understand you. People like you aren't supposed to be like this. Like what? Human. The word landed like a punch, because she was right. I'd spent so long building walls, maintaining distance, playing the role of the untouchable CEO that I'd almost forgotten I was human too. That beneath the suits and the corner office and the carefully cultivated image, I was still that hungry kid eating pancakes and wondering if the kindness of strangers was even real. The job I'm offering, I said. It's real. No strings attached. You can start Monday or whenever you're ready. We'll set you up with housing assistance through the company's employee support program. There's a furnished apartment available in the building next door. Nothing fancy, but it's clean and safe. Elena was crying openly now. I don't know what to say. Say yes. She looked at her daughter, at the photograph still in her hand, at me. Why does this feel like a dream? Because the world has taught you not to hope, I said. But sometimes hope is right. Sometimes people come through. Sometimes the universe puts you exactly where you need to be. Yes, she whispered. Okay, yes. 6 months later, I stood at the window of my office, watching the sun set over the river. The city blazed orange and gold, shadows lengthening across buildings I could name from memory. My phone buzzed with emails I would answer tomorrow. The Henderson merger had closed successfully. The company was thriving. Everything was going according to plan. But that wasn't what made me smile. A knock at the door. Elena entered, Lily balanced on her hip. The baby was bigger now, cheeks round and rosy, eyes bright with curiosity. Elena herself had transformed, not just physically, though she'd filled out, her skin glowing with health, but in the way she carried herself. The desperation was gone, replaced by something that looked remarkably like confidence. You wanted to see me, she asked. I did. I gestured to the couch, but she remained standing. She'd learned to stand up for herself these past months. I was proud of that. I have some news. Good news or bad news? Depends on your perspective. I handed her an envelope. Open it. She shifted Lily to her other hip and tore open the envelope. I watched her eyes scan the letter inside, watched them go wide. This is impossible, she said. It's actually quite possible. I made some calls. You can't just make calls and get someone readmitted to nursing school with a full scholarship. Apparently I can. She stared at me. David, this is too much. The job was too much. The apartment was too much. I can't keep accepting. Elena. I walked over to her, looking down at Lily, who grabbed for my tie with chubby fingers. Do you remember what you told me that first day, about why you wanted to be a nurse? Because of my grandmother, because of the people who took care of her. You said they made her feel like she mattered, like her last years were worth living. I gently extracted my tie from Lily's grip. That's what you gave me. You walked into this building, desperate and exhausted and fierce, and you reminded me what matters. You reminded me why I do any of this. She was crying again. She cried easily now, not from sadness, but from emotion too large to contain. I can't accept this, she said. It's too much. Then don't accept it for yourself, accept it for her. I nodded toward Lily. Accept it so that someday, when she's old enough to understand, you can tell her that her mother never gave up, that even when things were impossible, you kept walking forward, that you let people help you because accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Elena looked at her daughter, then at the letter in her hand, then at me. You're very strange for a CEO, she said. I laughed. I've been told. She set Lily down on the couch and threw her arms around me. I tensed for a moment, then relaxed. Human contact. When was the last time someone had hugged me like this, like they meant it? Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me, for being there when I knocked. Thank you, I said, for knocking. When she left, carrying Lily and the letter and a future she'd almost given up on, I returned to the window. The sun had set, leaving the sky streaked with purple and pink. I thought about my mother, about Robert Henderson, about the strange chain of kindness that connected us all, stretching backward and forward through time. I picked up my phone and texted Claire. Cancel tomorrow's meetings. I'm visiting the Meridian Street shelter. 3 dots appeared. Then should I prepare a donation? No, I typed. Prepare me. I want to meet the people there, hear their stories, see if any of them need a job, because that's what Robert Henderson taught my mother and what my mother taught me and what Elena reminded me when I'd forgotten. Everyone deserves someone willing to see them. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories.